Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one and only Toshi. Now, it's been a while, right? It has been a while. Not sure how long it has been, but it's definitely been some time. And let me tell you, there's some great news surrounding this coin. Ladies and gentlemen, in general, over the next couple of months, also in the private community, we're going to be calling out a lot more meme coins. We're going to be a lot more aggressive now. Now that everything is looking the way I want it to look, I'm going to be going 200% all out for the next few months. So I highly recommend joining the private community. You also get a portfolio review as well. Listen, listen, ladies and gentlemen, right? Toshi, right? This thing has been a little silent the last few days, but silence is not always an issue. People think you have to be pumping with the rest of the market. Guys, everyone takes their turn. If you've learned anything in being in the crypto markets about, coins pumping, everyone takes their turn, right? One week it's Turbo, one week it's Brett, next week it's Toshi, right? And of course, there's other coins as well, but you get the point. You get the point, okay? The whole point of trying to, get in cryptos is to catch the next big move, is to catch profits. A lot of people usually jump in when something is already kind of pumping midway or it pumped a lot. Guys, you have to realize, right? As much as you want the markets just to kind of fly straight up this way 24/7, that's not how it works. That is not how it works. Okay. Before we dive into the charts, I want to discuss something very, very urgent and very, very important. We can see whale alert, top 100 whale bought this many Toshi worth 1.7 million at 220 million market cap. Once again, 1.7 million worth of Toshi, almost 1.8 million worth of Toshi was bought around 220 million market cap on July 12th. Ladies and gentlemen, that is somewhere over here. That is literally somewhere over here, right? If we take this blue line, what does this tell you? If a whale is buying at this price point, what does this tell you? If someone's willing to put almost $2 million, this is just one whale, by the way. This is not anything else. This is not counting other whales, other big boys, other institutions, people that are putting in hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, right? This is not even before the big pump. This is not even before altcoin season, okay? If there's lots of money being pumped in at this blue line at 220 million market cap, do you not think the whales, the big boys, the institutions know and think this coin will go a lot higher? Like a lot higher? Yeah. Yeah. If a whale is buying at 220 million market cap, that probably does suggest that's a fantastic price. Okay. And it probably also suggests the whale doesn't care even if it dropped 10 or 20% lower, if anything, right? Objectively, where they bought is actually a really great price. Okay. Because we can see that we have been looking to try to kind of break out of this range, right? We can see over here, ladies and gentlemen, this is kind of zone number one. When we look at the details, right, this is kind of zone number one of 145, 150 million market cap, right? We have many, many wicks over here, many wicks touching this point. One, two, we have all of this price action. You have multiple wicks here, right? You have more price action over here, right? Boom, we can see that is price point number one. The second price point, I would argue, is actually where they kind of bought around 220 million, right? 220 million. We can see that's also a massive, massive support. So we can see that we've been trying to break out of this purple zone, right? We're trying to actually get above it. We have been struggling a little bit, but we can see that there's a reason why the whales are buying here. Now, you could argue even that there's a third point here, which I would say, yeah, there is going to be a little bit of resistance at 320 million. And then after that, we don't have to put too many zones. After that's actually more of a fair game, right? So the whales know that we're kind of, we left zone one. We're in the middle of zone two. Sooner than later, we're going to go to zone three. And once we kind of leave zone three, the next real relevant target is going to be, near the all-time highs, either above the all-time highs or a little bit below. That is the next real relevant target. Okay. And that is even before an expansion. Okay. That is even before an expansion. So the whales know something, right? Because even if we just pumped only to all time highs, the whales would still make a lot of money, right? It's not exactly perfect, but the whales would roughly make, 4 times profit, even if we just reached all time highs. That's a lot of money. That's millions of dollars just made. Now, I will say when we go on something like the weekly, we can see, right, just visually that we are looking to be going higher and higher. Why? Well, why did I say that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a floor over here. And then after that, we can see on the weekly consistently, we have this area is higher than this. This area is higher than this and this. This area is higher than this. Well, guess what? We have a double bottom here. That's guess what? Higher than this, right? So we are consistently rising our floor. You could literally see it visually that the floor is consistently rising. Okay. So for me, this is one of those indicators that, you know, every time we go lower, we actually don't go nowhere near as low as we were previously going, which means that the whales, people, institutions are constantly setting the floor higher, right? Constantly setting the floor higher. So I actually expect Toshi to have a breakout sooner than later. Okay. That is really what I expect. I expect Toshi to do very, very well. Now, people ask me, well, how high do you think Toshi can go? Well, let's just look at it from the Fibonacci standpoint, right? Fibonacci is a consistent tool. We do have, I guess, the rainbow gay version on this deck screener, right? Because it's not on TradingView. We can see, boom, right? 1.6 is kind of the normal zone. So 1.50 billion, not too crazy. A realistic area is 2.40 billion, which is a 10x. Would you complain with a 10x? No. On the higher end, which drops the probability a little bit, is roughly that 4 to 3.5 billion market cap zone, which would be roughly a 15x from here. And that is just a Fibonacci tool. That is not counting, market cap. Because in terms of market cap, I could definitely see this coin going to upwards of 10 billion. So we could even go potentially as like 30x kind of casually. It all depends how much money is going to be pumped in these markets, right? It's really hard to say. Something that could be the difference between, let's say, a 12x and potentially a 30 or 40x is base going to be a meta during the hype of altcoin season. You have to remember that the peak of peaks of altcoin season is roughly 6 weeks. So it's a very limited time window. If base is going to be meta even slightly before or during it, or like kind of right after the hype, then yes, this coin can go even upwards of 10 billion market cap. If there's not, it probably will still hit very good numbers. And I'd be really surprised if you kind of got it now, if you would make less than 10x, unless of course you cashed out early. But in terms of just the pump itself. So yeah, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy. Remember to join the private community. We are going to be calling out a lot of coins. We had a lot of winners over the last couple of months. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to be, we're back. We're going to be more aggressive than ever, and we're here to take over the markets. Love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.